All right, everyone, let's talk about the nervous and endocrine systems and how they work together to control our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. This section is really short and to the point, so hopefully you'll find that this goes very quickly. And a lot of this will be some review of things that you've already learned in other classes. We're specifically just going to review the building blocks of the nervous and endocrine systems in this video so that we can do some better application when it comes to psychological principles and how these systems control for those in class next time. Let's start out by looking at the endocrine system. So, the endocrine system is a very slow but sure messaging system that sends molecules as messages, just like the nervous system, but it sends them through the bloodstream instead of across synapses. These molecules are hormones, and they're produced in various glands all around your body. And then those messages go to the brain and other tissues to influence your thoughts, emotions, and behavior. Right here is a visual of various major players in our endocrine system and what they actually control for in the body. So I'd love for you to go ahead and pause the video. And as you look at this visual, make sure that in the chart in your interactive notebook, you take a moment to write down the major function of each of these parts of the endocrine system. We're specifically going to look in a little bit more detail at the pituitary gland and the adrenal glands, but all of these are important players when it comes to regulating thought or emotion or behavior in the body. So go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Let's dive more deeply into the pituitary gland. So, the pituitary gland is a master gland of the endocrine system. We call it that because it basically controls all of the other glands in the endocrine system and tells them what to do via this part in our brain called the hypothalamus, which we'll learn more about in class next time. Specifically, the pituitary gland produces hormones that regulate those other glands in the body, like your thyroid, your adrenal glands, other types of things like that. It also produces growth hormone and oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. Fun little fact about the pituitary gland. Your adrenal glands are important to psychologists because they basically put your body into the fight or flight response by sending messages to the adrenal gland to release the hormones that are listed in that bullet point above there. So if you see something that's scary to you, it produces this response in your body that sends you into fight or flight and causes a series of physiological changes that are designed to help you fight what you're afraid of or flee from it, to run away. Here's some information about how the nervous system and the endocrine system are similar and different. So let's take a look at similarities between the nervous and endocrine systems. Number one, they both help our body react to stimuli. They also both help our body maintain balance or homeostasis in spite of whatever's going on around us. Both systems send messages, and the hypothalamus is kind of the boss of both systems as well. But the endocrine system is different in key ways than the nervous system. So specifically, it has a slower reaction time. It uses hormones as messages, which travel through our bloodstream. And that's kind of how that system works. As opposed to our nervous system, which is very fast acting. It uses electrical impulses via neurons to send messages. And the organs involved in that system are the brain, spinal cord, and nerves. Let's now take a brief review of the nervous system in general. And so for this section, there's a chart in your interactive notebook, and you can feel free to just plug in the major function of these different parts of the nervous system into that chart. And again, we're going to make sense of all these basic building blocks in class together next time and see how all of these different parts work together to control thoughts, emotions, and behavior. In general, though, our nervous system includes the brain, spinal cord, and a complex network of nerves. And this system sends messages back and forth between the brain and the body in a way that allows the brain to control all of our bodily functions. Our central nervous system makes decisions for the rest of the body. It just consists of the brain and spinal cord. Whereas the peripheral nervous system gathers and sends information to and from the rest of the body. And you can see the difference in those diagrams there. Okay, further breaking down the nervous system, when we look at the peripheral nervous system, we can break that down into the somatic and the autonomic peripheral nervous system. The somatic peripheral nervous system controls voluntary movements, things that your body could choose to do or not. So for instance, when I go home tonight, I want to read a book. And so my somatic nervous system is going to allow me to voluntarily go over and pick up my book and open the book and read the pages one by one, and I'll have to move my hands to do that. So I can choose to do those or not. Those are controlled by the somatic nervous system, as opposed to the autonomic nervous system, which controls all of our automatic bodily functions. That's how I actually keep those two apart in my mind, if that helps you guys to remember. Autonomic sounds and looks like automatic to me. And so I remember that the autonomic controls the automatic functions that happen in my body. Things like my heart beating, me taking a breath of air, my eyes blinking if somebody blows air into my eyes or a puff of air comes my way, anything that I'm not directly controlling, but that my body just controls on my behalf. Okay. And then that little department, the autonomic department, is broken down into our sympathetic or fight or flight response system and our parasympathetic or the calming system. So now that we know a little bit about those major divisions of the nervous system, go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to think about some examples from your own life where each of these subdivisions of the nervous system would be involved. Go ahead and put those into the chart here. This is a great way to help make semi-boring vocabulary words meaningful for you. It's a way to help you remember them better when you force your brain to make a personal connection. So go ahead and do that now. And then finally, let's take one closer peek at the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic nervous system. And there's a chart in your interactive notebook here where you can kind of capture the vastly different responses your body has when it's aroused in the sympathetic fight or flight response versus when it's nice and calm in the parasympathetic rest or digest response. So on your own, go ahead and fill those in. But the basic idea is that these two systems are opposing systems. It's impossible to be in both responses at once. You're either in one or the other, okay? And when you go into the sympathetic nervous response, all of those things in the light yellow column happen in your body. When you're nice and calm and at rest, on the right-hand side of your screen there, all of those golden things kind of happen in your body. So take a moment to fill those in, and we'll talk about those in more detail in class next time. Last little bit of information here relates to types of neurons. So there are three major different types of neurons in your body. All of them work together to send messages throughout your nervous system so that your brain can control your body on your behalf. Sensory or afferent neurons send messages at the brain. Motor or efferent neurons send messages exiting out of the brain out to the rest of the body. And then we have interneurons, which are go-betweens. So for example, let's say that it's late at night and I wake up and I get up to get a glass of water and I stub my toe in the dark. A sensory or afferent neuron in my toe is going to start firing a message up through interneurons and eventually make it up the spinal cord and into my brain. My brain's then going to process that pain, and it's going to send messages exiting my brain. Motor neurons will send a message exiting my brain, probably to my mouth, and I'll exclaim something like, ouch, or oh my gosh, or something in surprise. And then also maybe it will direct me to pick up my foot or shake my foot or do something of that nature. So that's an example of how those types of neurons would work together to cause some sort of reaction in your body. Thanks so much for hanging in there with these basic building blocks, you guys. I promise next time we're together in class, we're going to put all of this together and start to look at ways in which your brain controls all of this to influence thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in very interesting ways. See you in class next time.